going on, everybody? Welcome into Four Verts. My name is Harrison Graham, and we got a special one today. NFL Mock Draft 12.0, 7 blockbuster trades in round one, including a few of them with some player movement, some players that have been connected to trade rumors. So let's go ahead and dive on into this. I don't think anything at the top is really going to change at this point. Cam Ward is going to be a Tennessee Titan. That's pretty well documented. Don't need to dive into that any further. Travis Hunter to the Browns. Until proven otherwise, feels like this is the direction. I could still see a scenario where they go Abdul Carter to pair with Myles Garrett, but they seem enamored with Hunter's two-way ability. With Myles Garrett re-upping, maybe they feel good enough on the defensive line. Hunter gives them a weapon on offense and on defense. The Giants is where the draft gets interesting. Adam Schefter says you can't rule out Shedeur Sanders in this spot. Other insiders have said the same. Other insiders have said they're not taking a QB here. They had a private workout with him on Thursday for the second time, to my understanding. They've spent a lot of time with him, so maybe they're still considering it. I think when the dust settles, they'll take the best player available, and that is Abdul Carter, and then potentially pursue a scenario to re-enter the first round for a quarterback. All right, my first of 7 trades. Let's have some fun. Again, this isn't necessarily something I would predict to happen, but the 49ers this offseason, they've been shedding some old contracts, some old money. Move on from Deebo Samuel. They let Fred Warner walk. They were unable to bring back Dre Greenlaw. Obviously, they also let Talanoa Hufanga go. They've even been willing to they tried to trade Brandon Ayuk before a roster bonus kicked in, but since that's happened, they can't really move him now. But would they be willing to move George Kittle? I know he's the guy they like. There's been talks of an extension. But what if they just want to go youth movement? And New England sitting at 4, Hunter, Carter are gone. Okay, we'll take some calls. You swap 4 and 11. New England also picks up a 4th and gets George Kittle in the process. I think that's something that could work. I don't know what George Kittle isolated is worth in a trade. Maybe like a 3rd-round pick. So is a 3rd and a 4th enough to go from 4 to 11? In a normal draft, probably not. But in this draft, in a buyer's market, this could be something that San Francisco pulls off, and then they go up and they get a defensive anchor for the future in Mason Graham. Mason Graham is a really good prospect, but New England is loaded on their interior defensive line. They've been rumored to like Will Campbell here, but if they don't love him and if they can get a weapon for Drake May in the process and get an extra draft pick back and still get an offensive lineman later, then I think they would consider that. So San Francisco goes up, gets Mason Graham, trades George Kittle to do it. Okay, that brings us to the Jags at number 5, who have been heavily linked to Mason Graham. How about Tyler Warren? They let Evan Ingram go, or they cut him. They traded Christian Kirk. Brian Thomas is a good young weapon, but who's their second guy? Gabe Davis? I looked at their tight end room. Look, I'm an NFL junkie. I don't know any other tight ends. I mean, they need a tight end. 5 is a little rich for a tight end typically, maybe even a tad rich for a Tyler Warren, who's probably more like 7 to 10 in this draft, but who cares? He's one of the best players in this draft. Liam Cohen's a creative offensive mind. Get him into your building and give Trevor Lawrence another weapon, because isn't that the goal for Jacksonville? They got to get T-Law back on track. Okay, another trade here between the Dolphins and the Raiders. The Raiders could use a corner. How about they go get Jalen Ramsey? They swap 6 and 13. Raiders pick up a 5th in the process as well as Miami moves up 7 spots. I don't know. Is Jalen Ramsey worth a 2nd-round pick at this point in his career? He's 30 years old. So, if you replaced him in the trade, it'd be, 13, like a 2nd-round pick and a 5th to move up 7 spots within the top 15. That feels about right. So, I think the value checks out there in this draft. Okay, we'll tell you who the Dolphins take in this mock draft in just a moment, but we're trying to get to 10,000 subscribers ASAP here on the channel. We're over 9,100 subs. Let's get to 10,000 as soon as possible. We would greatly appreciate it. We got more draft coverage to come. My final mock draft next week. We'll react to day 1, day 2, and day 3 of the NFL draft as well. All of it coming your way here on 4 Verts. Okay, Dolphins go get Will Campbell. Teron Armstead retired. They have Patrick Paul, a 2nd-round pick from last year. That's a question mark. Even if Patrick Paul ends up being a hit, great. Liam Eichenberg is currently slated to start at left guard. He's horrible. So Campbell could play left guard in the short term if you want to give Patrick Paul shot at left tackle. If Paul isn't that guy, you could put Campbell at tackle. The point is, the Dolphins have multiple question marks in their offensive line. They need to get tougher. They need better leadership. Will Campbell adds both of that. He was known as one of the strongest leaders in that LSU program. He's a versatile offensive lineman. He will hold people accountable, and they just need to be more of a physical football team in Miami. Going offensive line in round one with a trade up like this, that's a pretty direct move if you're Chris Greer and Mike McDaniel. Okay, Armand Membou to the Jets. Try to do something different here, but I keep coming back to this one. A lot of signs point to it. You go with a Justin Fields as your quarterback. You need to have that offensive line shored up. They don't have a right tackle at this point in time after losing Morgan Moses. Membou's the best pure right tackle in the draft. It just makes sense. Okay, trade alert. This is a big one. Broncos move up a ton because Ashton Jeanty is still available. They move up from 20 to 8 with Carolina. Carolina picks up 51, a second next year, and then Marvin Mims, who's going to enter the final year of his contract. The Broncos drafted Troy Franklin last year, 2 speed guys. It's kind of redundant, so give Bryce Young a speedster, another weapon to work with in that offense, just as kind of a throw-in. 2 seconds to move up 12 spots, plus a receiver is probably worth, a fourth or a fifth. Typically to move up this far, it would cost a first, but 2 twos probably gets it done. And then the Broncos go get Ashton Jeanty. Look, it's a big investment for a running back, but I think in this draft for this player and for this team, it might be worth it. If you get a dynamic running game to go with what Bo Nix was able to do as a rookie in that Sean Payton offense, he's a year older, growing, learning that Payton system. You get a dynamic player like Ashton Jeanty in that offense. They did not run the ball that effectively last year. That roster's in pretty good shape. You don't need a ton of high volume of picks if you're Denver. If you feel strongly that Jeanty could change your offense and change your team, that would be one that I would consider doing. Okay, Jackson Dart to the Saints. The latest buzz is that they like Dart more than Shedeur Sanders. Now, I think it's too early for Dart. Probably too early for Shedeur, to be honest. But if you're the Saints and you go elsewhere here, there's no guarantee you're getting Dart or Sanders at 40. In fact, I would say it's unlikely. So then you have to try to manufacture a trade to come back up. If you like Jackson Dart, if he's your guy, if Kellen Moore thinks he can win with him long term, you just take him. That's kind of the rule at quarterback. If you think he can be a franchise quarterback, even if the experts say it's too early, well, if you have that conviction, go ahead and get your guy. Which QB do you think goes first in this draft? Type JD for Dart, SS for Sanders. If it's the Saints, I think it's going to be Dart. In general, let's see. If the Giants don't take Sanders at 3, who's taking a QB before the Saints at 9? And is it a smokescreen? Is New Orleans going to take Sanders? I don't know. It felt like they were. Then now it's pivoted to Dart. It's lying season, smokescreen season. Who knows what's true, what's not. But the latest intel is that they like Dart over Sanders. Okay, Bears trade down here with Seattle. They pick up a second-round pick to do it, 10 to Seattle, 18 and 52 to Chicago. All the draft pundits say Jalen Walker is a lock to go top 10. He's considered one of the blue chippers in this class. I personally don't really see it. Now, I think in a 3-4 scheme with an innovative defensive coach like Mike Macdonald, that's the type of coach I would want Jalen Walker to get in with, the type of scheme, the type of defense. You think of a Brian Flores in Minnesota. I think if you get him with the right coach, right scheme, creativity, I think Walker could explode. You get him with the team that is more of a 4-3 defense, doesn't really know where he's going to play position-wise. Oh, we'll figure it out later. I think that could be Isaiah Simmons 2.0, where 3 years down the line you're like, yeah, we haven't unlocked him because we don't really have a position for him. But I think Seattle could make sense, and all the intel says he's going top 10, so I'll have Seattle move up for him. Okay, Tetairoa McMillan to the Patriots. So you get George Kittle in a trade. You trade down, still get Tetairoa McMillan. Hey, 2 weapons for Drake May. They've got Stephon Diggs. Obviously, you're going to have to come back and address offensive line, but they still have draft capital to do that. They could easily trade back into round 1, or they've got one of those early second-round picks. Maybe a Josh Simmons, a Josh Connolly falls to their lap. Okay, Will Johnson, the cornerback out of Michigan. T-Mac has been mocked to the Cowboys a lot, so he's off the board. I thought about Amarian Hampton here. I thought about Matthew Golden, but I ended up going Will Johnson. I think in a zone coverage scheme, which Matt Eberflus runs a lot of cover 2, cover 3, cover 6, Will Johnson can excel in that defense. He's a good off-ball corner. Don't think he's a press man guy, but in that scheme, I like the fit. Okay, Jahad Campbell to the Raiders at 13. If they trade down, I could see them going linebacker. They lost Robert Spillane, one of their leaders, at linebacker this offseason. They recently signed Devin White, who is atrocious. They need a linebacker, and Campbell kind of doubles as like an extra edge rusher as well. But mostly off-ball guy, can blitz him on pass obvious downs. He can help fill that void. Okay, Colston Loveland goes to the Colts at 14. Commonly mocked pick. Most draft analysts have him as a top 15 player in this class. There are some injury concerns. He was banged up this year. He's had 1 or 2 concussions. Obviously, playing tight end, you're going to be in the thick of things. So those are minor concerns, but he and Tyler Warren are clearly the best tight ends in this class, and Indianapolis really needs one. Okay, I put this in my script for my producer, Cullen. Shit's about to get wild. Let's have some fun here. Bengals and Falcons swap first, so 15 goes to Cincy, 17 to Atlanta. Not a huge difference there. Bengals pick up a second-round pick. Falcons get back a 5th and Trey Hendrickson. You add all that up, it's basically a second-round pick for Trey Hendrickson. And I think that's about what he would get. Like, you're not going to get a first for him. I know that Cincinnati wants a first for him, but the reason you're not going to get that is because he's going to turn 31 this season, and you're going to have to pay him $38 million a year. Like, teams don't want to do both. Like, they'll either buy low via trade and spend the contract, or they'll trade more for a guy who's under a cost-controlled deal as a high-level player. He's not. Like, you're going to have to pay him big money. So I think that's a fair deal. And if you're Atlanta, you've been trying to solve this pass rush issue for years. How about you go get the best one from the last several years? And he's actually kind of available. Just go get him rather than risking drafting a guy that you have no idea if he's going to work out or not. So what will the Bengals do with Trey Hendrickson? They either are going to have to trade him or they're going to have to pay him. T for trade, P for pay. I still kind of think they're going to trade him, even though they swear they're going to keep him. I could see him getting traded on draft night. Keep an eye on this one. Okay, then the Bengals replace him. They go younger. Mike Green, who I think is a really talented player, does have a couple of sexual assault allegations in his past. He was up front addressing those at the Combine. Dismissed those allegations. He's never faced legal trouble with them that we're aware of. Obviously, teams are going to have to do a lot of research here, but if that checks out, I think he's the best pass-rushing edge rusher after Abdul Carter. Okay, Jahdae Barron, kind of just a BPA type of pick here. He's one of the best players available on the board at this point. Arizona could use defensive back help at both safety and corner. He's versatile. He could play free safety. He could play nickel. Could play some outside corner. So you draft him and put him in your backfield or defensive backfield. Okay, then Atlanta doubles down in the trenches. They not only trade for Trey Hendrickson, they get one of the biggest upside defensive linemen in this draft, and that is Walter Nolan. Defensive interior penetrator, good against the run, huge potential as a pass rusher. There's been motor questions. There's been rumors that he used to leave practice early when he was at Texas A&M. It sounds like at Ole Miss he matured some, but listen, if you can get this guy on in the right headspace, he could take off. They traded Grady Jarrett to Chicago in the offseason so they could use an interior disruptor. You get Hendrickson and Nolan, your pass rush could go from a weakness to a strength overnight. Okay, after trading down, the Bears get another player, the interior defensive lineman, Derek Harmon, who is also a huge potential guy, really good run stopper. He's flashed as a pass rusher as well. I think both these guys' best football is ahead of them if they can fine-tune some things. I like that both Nolan and Harmon are already plus players against the run. And then the pass rush flashes kind of come and go, but you see the potential with their quickness. Okay, Donovan Azaraku goes to Tampa. I think they'd love to get Jahad Campbell in this spot, but already off the board, so they get a guy who projects to be a 3-4 edge rusher. That's what they run in Todd Bowles' scheme. Azaraku fits that bill. Malachi Starks, true BPA pick. Carolina trades down, gets the extra capital, extra second this year, extra second next year. They add the receiver and Marvin Mims and that blockbuster with Denver for Ashton Genty. They get Malachi Starks. They need more dudes on defense, and Starks is a dude. Okay, Pittsburgh gets a Marion Hampton. It's be a pretty, I don't want to call it a dream scenario, but pretty ideal, right? A Marion Hampton, most people think, will not get outside the top 20 because Denver's the floor. Well, in this scenario, Denver traded up for Ashton Genty, and a Marion Hampton kind of slides. So Pittsburgh gets their Najee Harris replacement and a guy who I think will be better than Harris in the NFL. Obviously, they got to figure out quarterback. Is Aaron Rodgers going to sign? Is he not? Are they going to draft someone later? They have a third-round pick they could use for a guy like Kyle McCord or Will Howard, Tyler Shuck if he falls. But they get their workhorse running back here in Hampton, which I think at 21 is great value. Okay, Kenneth Grant to the Chargers here. Harbaugh knows him well, recruited him, coached him. They need another defensive lineman. Just makes a lot of sense. Trey Amos, the corner out of Ole Miss, he's been rising late in this draft process, at least publicly. I think he's the best corner outside of like the top guys, which include obviously Travis Hunter, but also Will Johnson and Jahdae Barron. Amos actually projects to be a better pure outside guy than a guy like Barron. And the Jair Alexander situation, it seems like at some point he's going to get traded. Don't have him getting traded in this mock. I think that's more of like a day 2 or day 3 trade. Okay, finally happens. Giants come back into the first round. Minnesota's a perfect team to trade out of round 1 because they only have 4 picks in this draft. They pick up 34, which is the second pick on day 2, which is valuable because you're sitting on that pick for 20 hours. They also pick up a third in the process, 34 and 65, 424 overall. So Minnesota adds an additional day 2 pick. And the Giants come get their guy, Shedeur Sanders, at 24. I think if you told Joe Shane that you can get Abdul Carter at 3 and Shedeur slides to the 20s and you can still get him by only giving up 1 extra pick, I mean, that's about as good as you can hope for. I mean, Shedeur's not the biggest high ceiling type of prospect, doesn't have the biggest arm, not the best athlete, but if I'm only giving up 34 and 65 to go get him, I think that's a worthwhile swing if I'm the Giants. I know I've got a stud in Abdul Carter. This is a calculated swing for Shedeur Sanders. I think that's a pretty good like level of risk, even for a GM who's on the hot seat. Like if you're John Mara and it doesn't work out, I think you can live with this. You're not crippling the Giants' future capital by making this move. Which team will draft Shedeur? What say you? Who do you guys think is going to get Shedeur Sanders in this draft? I still think the Giants make a lot of sense. Cleveland could come back and get him later. Pittsburgh, all kinds of reports. Half the reports say they had a great meeting with them. There's other reports that said the meeting went terrible. So don't really know what to believe there. Again, it is smokescreen season, so believe what you want. Okay, Calvin Banks at 25. I think if you're Houston, if you just chill out and Banks falls to you, that would be awesome. I think they'll get some offensive linemen that is still available here. And in this case, there were a lot. Josh Simmons still there. Josh Connerly, Gray Zabel. So they kind of have their pick at the litter of like the second tier of offensive linemen in this draft. So they go with Banks, a guy who's more versatile, can play tackle and guard. Okay, trade alert, another one. The Rams are another team I think they could trade out of round 1 because they pick at 26, but then they don't pick again until 90. So they pick up 33 and 94 to move down from 26. And the Browns come up, and they get a 4th quarterback to go in round 1. Jalen Milroe goes to Cleveland. Listen, he's going to the draft. The NFL clearly has intel that there's at least a chance he can go in round 1, whether that's Pittsburgh at 21, whether that's New York or Cleveland trading back into the first round to go and get him. There's been rumors that the Steelers or the Browns really like Jalen Milroe. And I'll say this, I like him in that division, in those elements, because QB run game, when you play in the AFC North, pretty valuable in December and January. And they just signed Joe Flacco, so they don't need him to play right away. He could sit a year, maybe even 2. Come get Milroe late in the first round. Get the 5th-year option, which for him I think you would want to have further development time. I could see a team like Cleveland making this move. Okay, Gray Zabel goes to Baltimore at 27. They got to replace Patrick McCarry. Zabel can plug in, be that versatile offensive lineman that could play guard. He could play center down the road, although the Ravens have Linderbaum, so they're not going to be the team that ends up playing him at center. But plug-and-play guard could even play tackle in a pinch if they absolutely needed him to. I like Gray Zabel a lot. Some people think he's a top 15, top 20 player in this class, but in this case, he falls to 27 into Baltimore's laps as they end up getting one of the cleaner prospects. Obviously, there's always going to be a question, small school, FCS, but I thought he checked those boxes at the Senior Bowl, did some really good things. So the Ravens end up getting Gray Zabel here at 27 overall, which I think is one of the better value picks that I've found in this mock draft. Okay, Mykel Williams to Detroit at 28. I like Mykel Williams. I think he could go as high as like 10 to the Bears or even 8 to Carolina. He's only 20 years old. He's already a really good run stopper. 6'5", 265 pounds, pretty good athlete. Played through a high ankle sprain for most of last season, which I think speaks to his football character. People rave about him in that Georgia building. I think at 28, it's great value for Detroit. Shedeur Stewart at 29. I'm not the biggest fan, but I think at this point in the first round, I'm fine with it. Should at least be a solid run defender in the NFL. Hasn't shown much as a pass rusher. He can bull rush, but doesn't have really any finesse moves. He's not really a technician, so a lot of developing there needed as a pass rusher, but could have a decent floor as a run defender, and if he can at least become an average pass rusher, I don't mind it at this point in the draft. Okay, Nicky Manwari, the safety out of South Carolina. I think he's a wide variance player as well. He could go as high as the early teens or fall late first, maybe even second round, but Buffalo gets an athletic freak. They re-signed Damar Hamlin, who is probably better suited as like a third safety, if we're all being completely honest. So Manwari could push him and eventually take over. Okay, Donovan Jackson to the Chiefs. I think this would be a great fit for Kansas City because the left tackle, left guard situation with the Chiefs is kind of muddy right now. They signed Jalen Moore to a 2-year contract to be their left tackle, but if that doesn't work out, Jackson could play left tackle. If it does work out, then he could be your left guard, which I think is probably the more natural position for Jackson. You'd rather play him at guard, but he showed a lot at left tackle the second half of last year, taking over for Josh Simmons, who ended up with that pretty serious knee injury. So Chiefs opt to go with the more versatile player in Jackson over a guy like Josh Simmons, who is actually still available at this point. And he fell out of the first round because Matthew Golden, who actually slid in this mock, goes to Philly at 32. I'd be a little surprised if they went receiver round 1, but in this scenario, it's almost too good a value. A lot of people like Golden as a top 20 receiver. I think he's getting a little too much love, but I do really like him. He could be that third guy this year. Then if he develops nicely, a classic Howie Roseman move would be 12 months from now, he pivots off of A.J. Brown. Trade him while he still has good value. You've got Devontae Smith, who at that point, or really right now, could be a team's number 1. Matthew Golden could be the number 2. And that's just kind of what the good teams do. They shuffle pieces around because they got to pick and choose which high-paid guys they got. And they've paid both A.J. and Devontae, so I could see them pivoting off A.J. in 12 months. Okay, that's going to do it. Let me know what you guys think of this Blockbuster Trades NFL mock draft. It's always a fun exercise that I like to do every single year with some player trades. Let me know which trade was your favorite. We'll see you guys soon here on 4 Verts.